Hello there, fellow model makers, and welcome to the third part of my A model 1/72nd scale Indian Air Force AN-32 build. Well, we have put the fuselage together and now it's time to move on. Let's start with the wings. And yes, as expected, there are a few fitting issues. To be precise, they don't fit. Time to start trimming and sanding. I use a sanding stick, a file, and also my hobby knife. I keep cutting away at the wing and the fuselage till the two fit, or rather somewhat fit. The rest will have to be filled up with putty later. Now that the two parts do fit together somewhat, time to glue the pieces in. I have put some pressure on the leading edge of the piece with this rig so that the wing curves with the rest of the fuselage. Now to wait for the cement to cure. I filled the gap with some perfect putty, and then I used a wet Q-tip and wiped away the extra putty. I can do this with a Q-tip moistened with water because perfect putty is water-based. I find this technique easy and convenient when the aim is to just fill a narrow gap. This saves me from sanding down the area and then re-scribing it later. Time to start working on the engines now. And surprise, surprise, the first thing we need to do is some sanding. I clean the dust with some water in the airbrush. The initial sanding cleaned up the joint somewhat, but it will still require some putty. I cleaned up the putty with some more sanding later. I now re-scribe the details lost to the sanding earlier. The lower halves of the wings are also glued in place. Once everything was dry, it was time to start cutting and cleaning so that the engines would fit in place. Finally, with the two engines glued in place and drying, I turned my attention to the tail section. This trailing part of the tail needs to be replaced by one of the two options provided in the kit. But first, the existing piece must be removed. I dry fit the tail section to the fuselage and once again it doesn't fit. So more sanding and cutting till the two pieces come together. Finally, this section was glued in place and the joint cleaned up with some putty. I can now glue in place the vertical stabilizer. Time to glue in the wingtips to the engines. Once again, there is nothing to keep the pieces in place, so I will use this sponge and some other bits and pieces to support it till the cement sets. The seam lines on the propeller are also very rough and ugly. In an attempt to clean them up, I fill the gap with putty. With the putty now dry, it's time for our favorite pastime, sanding. Right, time to mask the canopy. The details on the canopy are barely visible, and I thought that it would be very difficult to use masking tape for this task. So I went with some masking fluid. I thought this day would never come, but finally, I am ready to start painting the kit. Given the amount of sanding I had to do, it was only prudent to clean the kit not once, but twice with some alcohol. I started by giving the entire kit a coat of Tamiya black paint. Next, some Tamiya white to marble the aircraft as pre-shading. The pictures of this aircraft seem to suggest that it was a real workhorse, and more often than not, the wear and tear and the weathering would show on it. So I will be adding a lot of weathering to the kit as well, starting with this paint job. Now, very misty and light layers of Tamiya XF66 light grey. The nose cone on these aircraft was painted in many colors, from light blue to grey. I decided to go with a black nose with red trimming. Parts of the engine are metallic, so I used this opportunity to give these panels a black base before painting them with metallic colors. now AK's Extreme Metal Aluminium. I next add some weathering on the metal panels with some burnt metal. The propeller tips are painted yellow. I tried hand painting the spinner. Let's just say that was a huge fail. So pretty soon I was back to airbrushing with Extreme Metal Aluminium. Right, fellow model makers, that's all we have time for on this edition. Next time, in what will hopefully be the last video in this build, I will finish the paint job, apply the decals, and do some weathering. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please do like and subscribe. Till next time, good luck and happy modeling.